availability in Nigeria. It is properly called the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. It will really benefit so many people, different disciplines, different categories of education, and it's imminent. Its launch is imminent. And the chief executive, the MD and CEO of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, according to the media, has vowed to go on a comprehensive media campaign along with all of his colleagues to sensitize people, especially the students themselves, parents, all stakeholders, to foster an understanding and awareness of what this loan is all about and all the kind of intricacies that people will probably want to know about it. In that regard, I say thank you very much, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, and a fine morning to you.
Very fine morning to you, Mr. Folari. Thank you for having me on your program.
Indeed, it is our pleasure. Now, it's after a number of, I don't know whether to call them false starts or disappointments, but now we hear that everything is set to go. The most important, of course, will be provisions for this fund to take off. Even that has been signed off on by the president. Why don't you take us from the very beginning? How ready are we for this loan to take off, this loan scheme to take off?
Okay, so thank you very much. That's a great way to start. And I think the answer to that question is that we are as ready as we can be under the circumstances we are today. So,
okay.
This has a long history. Obviously, the original act was signed into law by the president on the 12th of June, 2023. That act in itself had a number of flaws, a number of deficiencies, which were not deliberate. I guess, the crafters of that particular law were in a hurry to get things done and perhaps, missed one or two things. But nevertheless, their intentions were pure, their intentions were good, and the president kindly obliged by appending his signature to the act that made it law on the 12th of June 2023. So there's been a manner of work that's been going on from then until round about April this year. So I say April this year because in between the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, His Excellency, decided that it would be better for that law to be amended to make it more purposeful, more useful, more appropriate for the circumstances in which we find ourselves in trying to improve the education process in Nigeria and access to higher education, and decided to put an executive bill through to the National Assembly, just amending and correcting a number of things that might have become problematic later. On the 3rd of April, the new act was signed into law again by the president, as I said, following the executive bill that went to the National Assembly. That has managed to do and make a number of corrections, which can only augur well for those who are going to benefit from what is potentially a life-changing program for Nigeria.
Indeed. Now, I'll sort of, since you are sitting in your official capacity, have a world view of this loan fund, you'll probably permit me to, if I just sort of skip from here and there, so that I will ask some questions. So let's start off with, who exactly is entitled to benefit from this Nigerian education loan scheme, loan fund, loan program?
Okay. So thank you again. That's an important part of the sensitization that we're trying to do. First of all, in order to benefit from this, the applicant must be a Nigerian. So they must have an NIN. They must have a national identification number that demonstrates that they are bona fide Nigerian citizens. The second thing is for the tertiary academic side of this, i.e. those who are going to universities or wish to go to universities, polytechnics and colleges of education, they need to have a valid JAM number. That JAM number shows that they have made the necessary steps to apply properly, take the validation exams to be accepted into a tertiary institution as described. So a publicly owned, a state-owned, a government-owned university, polytechnic or college of education. So they will have a JAM number alongside their national identification number. And then because this is a loan, and a lot of this is about payback as well in the long term and some sort of visibility as to their means, there is a requirement for them to have a bank verification number which allows us to identify them as being financially included.
Okay.
The last of the immediate requirements as of today, because these things will change over time, but the last of the immediate requirements is that they either have an admission number if they're about to be admitted into a tertiary institution, or they have a matriculation number if they're already in an institution as described by me earlier.
Okay. Now you did say, you did preface what you've just said by saying that those who are concerned with the tertiary education aspect, how about the lower cadres of, is that the way to say it? How about the secondary, the professional, all those other ones? Is it much different?
Well, yes, in one sense it is. So I presume you're talking about the vocational and skills development element.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yes, vocational and skills development. Okay. So, with your permission, if you like, I'd say that they're not necessarily regarded by us as lower. They're just a different track. In trying to ensure, they're just a different track, really, in trying to ensure that this nation gets the full benefit of training and equipping people, not just to provide academic leadership, but also to provide skills and vocational strength for the economy. So you're going to have people like, or professions like, the blue-collar workers like.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said I take that on board entirely. Thank you very much.
Yes. So that's going to be slightly different because that doesn't go through the JAM process, as you can imagine. And you can also imagine that there are challenges around financial inclusion, perhaps even NIN. It's a much larger group of people who are not necessarily as literate or as included in terms of data capture as the tertiary education subset. So they're different, and our approach to eligibility for that will be different. If you recall, this is a part of the program that the President included only in the second act that I described that was signed on the 3rd of April. And we are not going to be launching that immediately. We're working hard to make sure that we can put the right structures in place for that to work as it should.
One of the most important aspects of this whole scheme, you actually itemized it at the very beginning. It is a loan, and by the very definition of the word, it must be repaid. Now, I know that there are certain aspects, in fact, there are certain provisions under which it possibly could be forgiven. The loan could be forgiven, although that is not what to concentrate on. What is the tenure? How long do beneficiaries of the loan have to repay the loan? And are the conditions going to be comfortable or, just in the middle, or quite frankly, it might be a bit strenuous?
Okay, thank you for the question. But rather than go straight to the answer, I perhaps want to just put a little bit of context around the conditionalities for the loan itself. So you're absolutely right. This is a loan. It's not a grant. It's not a gift. It's a loan. What that basically means is that those who apply voluntarily for this loan and are deemed eligible and are therefore given the loan have an obligation to pay this loan back. Now, just to give a little bit more context, so the way the law is crafted, the idea is to ensure that this loan is not onerous. It's not going to be burdensome on those who want to take a loan to go and improve their status, their educational status. So essentially, what the law says is that once the loan is obtained, there is no requirement for any sort of payback until at least 2 years after they've completed their National Youth Service Corps program. Now, that's not to say that people can't repay early. If people have a windfall, if they get a job early, they get a well-paid job, or they get somebody who wants to liquidate the loan for them, they can do that at any time during the program itself, the program of study itself, or thereafter. However, for those who are not as lucky, who are not as fortunate, 2 years after youth service, Youth Corps, they are obligated to begin to report as to their status and their ability to pay back. The way it then works is that if they are employed, as opposed to self-employed, if they are employed, the employer has an obligation to check, and the employee or prospective employee has an obligation to inform the employer that they have a loan, and then there are direct deductions from their pay packet back to the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, which makes it a revolving arrangement for those who are exiting and paying back and those who are coming in. But to then directly go to your question, is there a tenor? No, there isn't. And I'll tell you why. It's important to understand this point. There is the fact that a person has begun to pay their loan back as an employed individual. If they lose that job, if the job stops paying, if they have to stop earning for whatever reason, illness, debilitating illness, death, or whatever, the truth about it is that the repayments therefore stop. Now, the amounts that they're paying anyway are a percentage of their income, and people will earn different amounts of money, if you like, through their career. So there is no tenor to it at the moment. They will pay back on the basis that they have, and they have the ability to pay back. Of course, for those who are self-employed, they will have to make voluntary payments back to the fund. And one of the things that they will sign up to when they take the loan is that if they become self-employed, there will be declarations of their income, and they will, if they want to avoid a felony charge of sorts, will need to pay it back if they have it.
Okay. Indeed,
Over time,
the other question. Yeah, the other question I was going to ask was embedded in the end of your last sentence, felony charges. If, for whatever reason, you willfully or carelessly do not pay back for whatever reason, I just wanted to know what kind of a view the fund would take of such an instance. And I think you've indicated it. Felony charges could come into the issue. Although we're just saying that for the sake of completeness, one just hopes that it doesn't go there, and that the main aim of the fund, which is to benefit a lot of Nigerians who otherwise might not have been able to, further their education, will be sort of captured, so to speak. Now, the other thing, any age limits? Because we often hear of, sometimes, maybe not often, you sometimes hear of, some people who are much older but are still interested in education. Can they take advantage? You have very senior students, maybe students in their 50s, 60s, some even 70s. Any kind of what are the age recommendations for being able to access this fund?
Okay. Thank you. Again, another great question, question around age. I'm just going to make a quick note of that because I want to just go back to the issue around, the obligation to repay the loan. So As I said, this is designed to be as non-onerous as possible. There is absolutely no encouragement on the side of the law for people to be criminalized if they can't pay back. There are really only two key points where if repayments are not made could cause a problem. One is for the employer, because the employer has an obligation to make deductions and pay back. Otherwise, the company or individuals within it could be liable to being charged with offenses if they employ someone who has a loan and they're not making the repayments. The other side are those who are self-employed. Those in the middle, who are largely the biggest group of employed people, will not be criminalized if they are working for a company or an organization, getting a salary, a wage. It is not up to them to make the payments back to the fund. It is up to the employer to make the payments back to the fund. So there's really little or no chance that an employed person who's not having their remittances made on their behalf would get into any sort of trouble. So I just wanted to make that clear. The only other place where it could be an issue is if in the process of applying for the loan, the individual tells a falsehood or makes a false declaration, then clearly that would be obtaining funds under false pretenses, and that in itself is an offence in any area of the economy, if you like, or the polity. So, going to the age limit, yes, again, you're right. There are people who perhaps are older, of the older generation, who want to obtain this loan. I think this program, I should tell you, is largely directed at the youth for a couple of reasons. First of all, we have 35% or so youth unemployment in Nigeria. We need to improve that position quite drastically using this access to education law that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has brought into play for Nigerians. We are actually looking to help as many young people who have the desire, the capacity, and are eligible to apply for this loan. This is targeted at them. It is for first degrees in the first instance, if you like. We're not looking to fund master's programs or PhD programs. This is really targeted at the young. We haven't set an age limit on this because, one of the things that we are trying to do is to understand where the latent demand for funding or loan funding, if you like, for tertiary education really is. Where does it really sit, and how does it maximally or potentially maximally benefit the economy of Nigeria? Clearly, anyone who's over the age of 45 would really struggle to get this loan, because we do have a good number of people well under that age who need it, have never worked perhaps, and really want to be able, and really are able, given the time ahead of them, to really contribute to the great economy that Nigeria is seeking to get back to being. So that's, we will review our guidelines as we go along and as we see what's going to happen. This is an intuitive process. We are going to have clear guidelines. However, we do reserve the right to change those guidelines in a way that allows us to accommodate what's best for the nation Nigeria. That's what the President wants. That's what we're going to do.
Okay, and thank you very much. Now, when we talked about this, of course, we didn't have you at the time. When we were just talking about this on the program, because we have done so, like a number of other television stations and programs, of course. One of the issues that were thrown up was the application process. Now, there are a number of boxes that must be ticked if an applicant is going to be successful. And one of those has to do with guarantors, sponsors, if you will probably know the right word, those who the law setting up, the fund, say are appropriate people to guarantee people. There was some concern about where, if it had to do with your state of origin, if it was a local government chairman. So in short, that area, that question, since Nigerians are highly mobile, you might be living somewhere in Kaduna, for example, but be an indigene of Ogun State. What are the provisions as it relates to somebody standing for an applicant?
Okay, so again, thank you. That's an important question of clarification, and I can see where some of the confusion might come from. So if you recall, at the beginning of our conversation, I talked about the fact that we had a bill that was passed through the House, signed into law on the 12th of June 2023 by Mr. President. And that particular law, that particular act, required the applicant to come up with these guarantors that were really very difficult for people in the particular bracket that we're actually seeking to help to come up with. And one of the reasons that Mr. President sent this back to the National Assembly to have it, to have the law changed, or to have the old law repealed and a reenactment happen, was exactly this, that there was a lot of talk, a lot of clamor, and a lot of recognition that this was really not a helpful requirement. So the new law, signed on the 3rd of April this year, removes the requirement that students would need a guarantor for them to be able to apply for the loan. So that has completely gone. Students can no longer, for example, as well, be disqualified on the basis of the loan history of their parents, which was again in the previous law. So we've been able to remove these, or the National Assembly has helped remove these in the crafting of the new law, to say, look, this just doesn't work. It just puts too many people out of the loop. I think the other thing I should mention at this juncture, and I'm sure the question will come up, in the old law, there was a requirement that families that were earning over 500,000 naira a year would not be eligible if their children wanted the loans, or their wards wanted the loans. Now that has again been removed because it was deemed unreasonable. And the President, in his wisdom, in retransmitting the law, made it very clear that this had to go. And the National Assembly, in their wisdom, agreed.
So, well, that's heartwarming that another keen look has been taken at the law. And some of those things that we're talking about now were actually being heard by those concerned and indeed have been addressed. So that's gratifying. Now, you've spoken about quite a number of things here, and I imagine that there will be more questions that will come up. Maybe some of them we'll even get when we open up the phones now, for example. Maybe there are people watching this that are interested, that are stakeholders, and that might call up. But you're going to take the train, so to speak, around many places. Maybe being on television right now is part of that whole plan, to take it to the people, for the people to become familiar with it, with the provisions of it, and what are the questions, what are the observations, and that kind of a thing. So are you going to have like town hall meetings on this matter?
Yes, so the whole idea around, or the whole objective of the sensitization program is to really bring the opportunity, the program, the platform for application to the public. I think this is something that affects absolutely everybody in Nigeria, because it seeks to bridge a fairly large education gap, and it seeks to bridge it by ensuring that those who have the desire and the capacity to actually improve on their educational standing, their educational status, are not deprived because of an amount of money, which the government is now going to provide. So the idea of the sensitization program is to say, hey, look, here's a program. This is how it's going to work. If you have any questions about the detail around how it's going to work, we will let you know. The way that we will carry out this sensitization program is going to be through using multiple ways of communicating with the Nigerian public. Town hall meetings is certainly one of them. We're intending to go round to the institutions themselves because there are some students who are already studying in institutions who are going to be able to apply for these loans. We're going to go round to places where there are parents who are aspiring to put their children through this educational opportunity that Nigeria has in its various institutions, but are simply lacking in funds. We need to create a situation where we're able to educate them about eligibility process, how they're going to work, how they're going to apply, what the repayment process looks like. There's a lot of information that we're going to need to put out there so that we don't get, the rumor mill going, misinformation going. We need to ensure that this is done through social media. You're quite right. My appearance here today is part of that. Town hall meetings, seminars, newspaper, print media. We're going to have, systems that people can communicate with us and ask us direct questions about, what the loan means, what it means generally, what it means for them specifically. So, we're going to take a multimedia approach. There are 200 million or so people in this country. And I think one way or the other, everybody is going to be affected by this. So, we really want to go out there and spell out, what we're trying to do and expect to get feedback so that we can answer questions and, of course, improve on what we're doing as well.
Great to hear. Okay, our first caller has called in. Mr. George in Ikeja, thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning,
good morning to the guest.
Mr. Sawyer.
Uncle Yori, please, I want to thank you for bringing Mr. Sawyer to this program. I have two questions for him. The first one has to do with political influence on selection of candidates.
Okay.
The politicians that we know in our country always want to influence programs like this for members of their constituencies. They will tell you, reserve so number of slots for members of my constituency and give me 100. If a minister comes to you and say, I want some slots for members of my community that I know who need it,
excellent.
What would you do?
Okay.
That's number one. The second one has to do with guarantorship.
Okay.
I heard him say that the law has been amended, that there is no need for guarantorship again. I think that this loan should be used as an opportunity to arrest some of the vices, social vices by our youth in our communities. You don't have to go and get a guarantor from your local government because you can be living in Lagos or you are from Borno State. But in the community you live in Lagos, whoever is the leader of that community should know you. You should go to that person and get guarantorship. What will it do for this society?
All right.
It will help the youth to sit up to become better citizens, knowing very well that at a point in time, they will be required to go to their community leaders to seek guarantorship for something like this.
Okay, Mr. George, I think we're going to have to limit it to those two. I do crave your indulgence. Thank you very much for calling in on this, Mr. George. Okay, Mr. Sawyer.
George, for two very, very good questions, and I think they're very fair questions. The first thing I'm going to say, Mr. George, is that politicians all over the world have an obligation to their constituents, to those who vote them in, to try to get the best deal for them. That is the job of a politician anywhere in the world, and I don't think we should disparage that. Having said that, our job at the NEL Fund is to make sure that there is fair and equitable distribution of opportunity for those who need this loan to get it. Therefore, we are not going to be influenced by anybody, politicians or anybody for that matter, to direct these loans unfairly in one particular direction. And I can tell you that one of the things that we're doing to try to address that is to use technology. So the application process is entirely technology driven. You go into a portal, you apply for the loan through that portal, having put in all the requirements, the eligibility requirements into that portal, and those eligibility requirements, NIN, BVN, matric number, admission number, JAM number, are verified without any human interface. And at the end of the process, you make an application facelessly. You don't need to know the chief executive of the NEL fund or any minister or any governor. Because it's a faceless process, because it's a non-human intervention process, you can go all the way through the application, make your application, and then wait for a response. We do not want to create any gateways, any bottlenecks, any opportunities for people to make money, to blackmail people for graft. We are trying to eliminate that, and it is technology that will help us do that. And that's what we're going to deploy. So going forward about the guarantorship, the truth about it is that, again, what we don't want is somebody setting themselves up as a community leader and saying, you know, come and give me this if you want me to be your guarantor. You know, we can't have it both ways. You know, we've got to give people the opportunity to apply for this loan on the need basis, not on the basis of whether they know the community leader, they have a good relationship with them, or they don't. It just starts to allow, you know, some of this gatekeepers to creep in. We've taken it away for good reason. There are people who are orphans. There are people who are not part of any community but have the capacity and the desire to go and get further education. Why should they go and sit outside somebody's office for 8, 9, 10 hours or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days because they want a piece of paper signed? This is an equal opportunities program, and that's what we want it to be. We've taken away the guarantorship for now, and that's what we're going to do. In any event, the funds are being paid, the bulk of the funds are being paid directly to the institution, not to the individual, the bulk of the funds. So, you know, why put them through that process or through that pain? Thank you, Mr. George. I hope I've answered your questions.
All right, then. Well, indeed, thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. If you're just joining us, Mr. Sawyer is the MD and CEO of the Nigerian Education Loans Fund, NEL Fund, and in a way, it's sort of kickstarting the sensitization campaign that his organization will be taking around the country. We'll take a break now. We'll be right back, and we'll continue with your questions.
Good morning, Marina Station and all the passengers. Efficient, it's comfortable.
This development will go a long way in reducing congestion and emission.
The trains are a long-term solution to Lagos traffic challenges.
This is where we take the final, decisions on policies, programs of government that will have to ensure that, the narration of Lagos as a PLC is taken very, very seriously.
This is a major pedestrian bridge linking Oyinbo here to Apapa Road over there.
With this overpass, we are providing what we call a permanent solution.
This place is one of the most dangerous areas at the biosecurity environment.
This can go into the news and every crumbs of your neighborhood.
Our goal is to remain as Africa's model megacity, to move our GDP from the 5-6 position to the 3rd position, and we believe is achievable with all the commitments we have.
Explore the city of Lagos, where dreams are made and possibilities are endless. Amadedoja Salamadini, I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Okay, welcome back. Our guest is Mr. Kitude Sawyer, MD CEO, Nigerian Education Loans Fund. And while we were away on break, Yakub had called in. So thank you very much, Mr. Yakub. He's so intense on this subject. He said that, don't worry about it. I'll wait till you get back. So thank you for that, Mr. Yakub. Now go ahead.
Thank you very much, Shivjori. And then good morning to our guest. Shivjori, for me, initially, I have my doubts concerning this government program initially, but listening to the MD this morning now, that my doubt has been cleared off. You know why?
Tell us.
He made mention that this program now is not driven by technologies. And then I don't think anybody can intervene that manually, because what makes it unique now is that even the student that want to apply for the loan can even enter his or own laptop or go to server cab and then do whatever I want to do, apply. And then what makes it unique again is that I heard him say that this very particular money paid direct to institution, not paid direct to the applicant or paid direct to the mother or the father of the applicant. That makes it unique as well. Then, for them to even take away of politicians have access to this money, in fact, I was so happy, because if they give the politician access, that if you have to bring one kind of local government chairman or your community leadership or even imam or pastor to be your guarantor before you can have access to this loan. I can tell you categorically says that even the imam, the pastor, they will first settle their family before any other person. So, but now that the program is driven by technology, in fact, if government can skate through this very particular promise, they promised initially when they were campaigning, this is one of the things that I give them kudos for. And then, Chief, I also give kudos to your guys, because it is another thing for you to have a very good program, but it's another thing to have a very good manager that can give you a program and then the thing that will make you succeed in that very particular. If you don't have anybody that will manage that program very well, you are going to fail. But now, it is clear to me that the person in the studio with you or other side, it is good manager. And then I want to say this. At the end of the day, by the time all the children and students have benefit from this, some students will be able to come on the television and say, yes, I apply for this without nobody. My father is nobody, my mother is nobody, and then I get this thing done. Thank you, government. Kudos to federal government once again, and God bless the government of Ashwat Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then God bless your guest this morning. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakub. A very enthusiastic Mr. Yakub there, Mr. Sawyer. This is part of the sensitization you were talking about.
Indeed, and I don't know if Mr. Yakub can hear me, but I say amen to his prayer. I think his points are exactly right. We are trying to make sure that we don't create any demigods in this process, anybody that can hold a gun to anybody's head to say, if I don't sign, you get this loan. We want to remove all opportunities for that. And by the way, this is not a uniquely Nigerian issue. Anywhere in the world where you put power in someone's hand and you expect them not to misuse it at some point in time, you're mistaken. So the more power we can take from individuals around decisions that affect the lives of these young, vulnerable members of our society, any way in which we can blank those who may want to take advantage of such people from doing it, we will do. And technology has been proven everywhere in the world and across all manner of industries that if you put a faceless piece of technology there, as long as it works and it works properly, it's difficult for humans to actually manipulate it, including the managing director of NEL Fund. We don't want this thing manipulated. The president wants this thing to spread evenly across the country, and it should be opportunity driven, not contact driven or not by whom you know. Thank you, Mr. Yakub.
Indeed. Reverend Dominic has come on the line. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Yore. Good morning to your guest.
Mr. Sawyer, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Sawyer.
Good morning. Good morning.
I want to start where Yakub, my friend, have just stopped. The man in the studio, I know him a little bit. He does not know me. a very disciplined man, a very thorough professional. I'm so glad that he's going to drive this program. But I want to ask him this question. Is there any mechanism to check people who will, try to sabotage this program? I ask this question for this. The Minister of Interior, a young man, very professional, has made obtaining passports electronically. Yori, I went there last month. They have introduced paper file, a paper, 500 naira. And if you don't buy that file, all you fill in your computer and the electronics is in vain. I asked the man there, why are you doing this? We remove human, element in this. You have introduced it again. So is there any mechanism to check people who will sabotage this program? Number two, does this have, the loan application, does it have limits? Maybe 1 naira to 2 naira or 10 naira to 30 naira. Number three, are we going to see in that form state of origin or just a Nigerian with BVN, with NIN, with other things? Is what we're going to see. Are we going to see state of origin? Because when state of origin comes, the professional I know there, the minister I know there, very thorough man, Nigerians begin to know who come from north, who come from west. But if we remove state of origin, it's Nigerians, training their children, and I know that this will work. And I want to thank God to Mr. President who signed this document and remove what they call, grantor. Why should I give my daughter money to go to school and I ask him to go and bring her to grantor? Mrs. Nigeria is training the daughter of Nigeria. He doesn't need a grantor. That's one of the best things I've ever seen happen in Nigeria. And God bless the man in the studio. I know him very well. And God bless our president. And God bless Nigeria. But my question is there any mechanism to check people who will frustrate this program? God bless you, sir.
Thank you, Reverend. Well, Mr. Sawyer, I hope you made a few notes.
I did. I put a few pointers down. Reverend Dominic, thank you very much for taking time to call in. And your points are well noted and well taken. I think that you will find that with any program that involves money in particular, the potential for sabotage is huge. There are many people who would like to see this program run in a different way, in a way that creates opportunities and avenues for it to fail from a technology standpoint so that it can revert to manual. Because once it reverts to manual and you start using pieces of paper, then actually what you've created is that human interface that we're trying to prevent, and that human interference that actually stops it from working the way it should. So we're going to do everything we can to ensure that the technology does not fail. We're going to put in all sorts of backup systems. We're going to try to ensure that we don't have ghost students, for example. We'll try to ensure that if the system is attacked, there's cyber security that we require and we have, that if the system is attacked so that it can go manual, we're going to, we're putting in processes in place to ensure that we have alternative application points and sites for this to happen. So sabotage is real. Sabotage or attempts at sabotage will happen. We just need to be ready to manage and defend the program from that sabotage, from those sabotage opportunities or attacks, if you like. To your second question, is there a limit? The answer is yes, there is a limit. And the limit is this. And I just need to speak to something else very quickly. So there are two elements to this. The first is the element of the direct disbursement to the institution. So when an individual applies for a loan to cover a course in a particular institution, when we grant the loan, we will pay 100% of the cost, if you like, or the fees, the institutional fees for that loan. So if the fees are 120,000 naira, 300,000 naira for whatever course it is, we will cover the entire cost of the institutional fees for that loan. So that's where the limit is. So now, having said that, We also recognize that covering someone's fees to go to an institution and then providing them with nothing thereafter may be self-defeating. So we are going to give, as part of the loan, a stipend directly to the account of the individual on a monthly basis to ensure that they've got something to live off and to survive on. And this is all going to be means tested. We will make those determinations according to the individual, perhaps the course they're doing, the institution that they're at. But just for clarity, 100% of the institutional fees will be paid. A determinable amount for the upkeep will be determined, and that's what the individual will receive on a monthly basis. That, by the way, is optional. The final point that Reverend Dominic made was around state of origin. So we're not specifically looking at state of origin, but having said that, we will be able to view from the back end the state of origin of people who are applying for this because of the NIN, the national identification number that is a requirement for this, contains an element or line in it that tells us the state of origin. Now, this is quite important because even though we're not looking at creating any sort of quota around this, we do have to recognize that this is a federal government initiative that all Nigerians should be able to apply for. And we will be seeking to encourage everyone, men, women, people from the north, people from the south, people from the southeast, people from the southwest, to join in and try to get an education, because there is an inherent understanding that education is a game changer for any nation in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Let me also bring on our next person, and also apologize, Mr. Sani. Please see if you can call back in, and we'll try and pick it up immediately. Mr. Sani Adenuga, by the way, is chairman of Boot Party in Nigeria here because of Our Tomorrow. That's how Boot is formed, because of Our Tomorrow, Boot Party. Okay, so, in the time that we have left, maybe I want to go back to the very beginning when I asked you how ready we were to really take off with this scheme. You had said we're as ready as we can be in the circumstances. And that said to me that, excellent, we have the mass, the critical mass with which to indeed launch. But then it did suggest to me that there are still some areas, maybe not crucially essential in terms of preventing the launch of this laudable program. But there still are, if wishes were horses and beggars could ride, there still are some things that you would like to see in place. Might I ask what those areas are?
Okay, I can see how my initial comments bring this question about, and I'm glad you're asking me this question. So, when you're implementing a program where you don't know how many applications you might receive, how many inquiries are real, how many are ineligible, how many are eligible, how many have the right data points. And then on top of that, you've got technology. And technology is, by its very nature, dependent on not just on the individual system that you put together, but on other people's systems. So we have APIs, for example, into NIMSI, APIs into NIBS for the bank verification system. We're heavily dependent on the data that the academic or the tertiary institutions provide us with, confirming that students are indeed enrolled or coming to the institution. There are a number of what I would call points of potential issues that we need to look at and iron out. Unfortunately, you can't iron out some of these things until you've launched. We are as ready as we can be for a launch, but we will continue to tweak and modify and make sure that the system works properly. Let me stop there because I'm not sure if Mr. Adenuga is back.
Indeed, thank you very much for that. And in the meantime, Mazi Okora for Inaro Chukwu has called in. Mazi, I do beseech you to please keep it as brief as possible so that there will be room for his answer. Go ahead, sir. Mazi Okorafo.
Yeah, Mazi Okorafo. I want to find out from our guest, the CEO. Good morning, sir. This issue of telling the international rulers. Now, sometimes you see, when I say 60% of these are youth or the students or the undergraduates, many of them are just grow up from the urban areas, not in the villages. How will they get in touch if they don't have access to the? I think there should be another alternative, because the students are saying that you must go to your village. Most of them, they have not been to their village up to the age of 18 or 19, or even before they enter the school. And secondly,
well, Mazi, I beg your pardon, sir. I'm so sorry. There won't be much more room for any more, because we have to leave a little space. We don't even have that for Mr. Sawyer to be able to respond. He was speaking there about this sponsorship thing. You've spoken about it twice, but was there something you wanted to add as a result of his question?
Sorry, is that directed at me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think what I got from Mazi Okorafo's question is that most of the youth and students are in urban areas, that they need to go back to their villages to speak to their traditional rulers. I'm not sure why that would be. With the requirement for guarantors has been removed. There's no requirement for anyone to go back to their village to go and ask their traditional ruler for anything. So this is a sensitization exercise, and I appreciate that people are getting and receiving information in different ways. But let me be very clear on that. There's no requirement to go back to your village to meet anybody to become a guarantor for you. We've removed that. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And we have to leave it there because, unfortunately, we don't have the time to proceed to continue much younger. But I really do want to thank you, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, MD and CEO of the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund, for coming on the program as part of your initiative to sensitize people, stakeholders, including students, parents, teachers, lecturers, community leaders, and indeed us, we, the media. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that there'll be more questions that you will be answering. You and your team will be answering at the different fora where you appear. So this is saying a very big thank you, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer.
Thank you, Uncle Yori. It's been an absolute delight being on your program, and I'm happy to come back or to receive any further questions you might receive on the topic. So thank you for making the opportunity available to us. Have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. So there you go. That's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.
Last year was a shutdown. But this time it's going to be a night to remember. Lagos, are you ready? It's Ogbuefi live in Lagos from Onitsha to Lagos. Featuring AY, Clint the Drunk, Nedu Wazobia, Senator, Funny Bone, MC Danfo, Edo Pikin, Kaboko, Sa One on One, Albino Brothers, and lots more. Musical performances by Ayi Dons, Onyeze, Spackle, and many others. Venue, Eco Hotels and Suites, Lagos. Date is Sunday, 26th May 2024. Show starts by 7 p.m. Tickets, regular 5,000 Naira. VIP, 25,000 Naira. Gold table, 2 million Naira. Premium table, 3 million Naira. Tickets are available at all Urban supermarkets or visit ariatickets.com. For table reservations, please call 0703-309-9740. Supported by Taka Group, Vera Angela Solution, Vintage, Volaroo Champagne, Wayne Homes, ICA Properties, Cubana Group, Demaco Wine, Viper Engine Oil, and Agu.ng. This event is powered by Talk Empire and Amana Agu. Packaged by Lanre Mako Event. Media partners, TVC.
Bye, Mom. He's going to play in this weather? Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with Germ Defense gives you protection. Rainy season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's Germ Defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Tired of pans that scratch and stick? Or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen and are of little to no use? Cooking used to be fun, but now it just feels like a chore. Introducing ShopX Gotham Hammered Copper Collection, the perfect cookware to upgrade your cooking experience. The Gotham Hammered Copper Collection features a super durable ultra non-stick surface. Eggs stick to other pans, but with the Hammered Copper Collection, they slide right out. Incredible! Plus, the Cool Touch solid cast handle makes it safe and easy to cook even the hottest dishes. It's oven safe up to 500 degrees, so bake this beautiful chicken stew pizza and serve it straight from the pan. Or this tasty delicious cake that will have your whole family asking for more. Any recipe can be made in these pans, and then it wipes clean with ease, so cleanup is a breeze. Plus, use your hammered copper pan to make homemade pancakes that flips and slips right out. Or make mouth-watering jollof rice or even fluffy pounder with ease, because nothing sticks.
I needed a cook way to keep up with me. The Gotham Hammered Collection has been a game changer. No more burnt meals or hours spent scrubbing pots.
From ShopX TV.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Hello, thanks for joining us on TVC News at noon. We start off at the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja, where the arraignment of former Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika and his brother had been stalled due to the absence from court. The counsel to EFCC, Oluwaleke Atolagbe, informed the presiding judge, Suleiman Belgore, that the defendants had not been served with a charge in the case. The presiding judge then fixed 23rd of May for arraignment. In the first charges against the former minister, the EFCC alleged that Mr. Sirika, as Minister of Aviation, used his position to award contracts for his brother's company. And TVC News reporter Helen Osamede-Akins joins me now for more updates. Helen, what more can you tell us about the proceedings today in court and the reason why Mr. Hadi Sirika and his brother were not in court?
All right, so Precious, today's charge against Adi Sirika is a very fresh one, which the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has leveled against him today. So today's hearing was different from the previous courts, which we had last week. That was FCT High Court in Maitama, but today's one was in Gariki FCT High Court. So the issue there is that he was not in court today, and that is as a result of the fact that he has not been charged, he has not been served the charge. And recall that last week, when Hadi Sirika was granted bail alongside his son-in-law and his daughter, another of the conditions of the bail was that he can be within the Nigeria but must not travel out. So Hadi Sirika is not in Abuja where the case is being heard, and the fact that he was not being served, so he's not able to come to Abuja for the matter to be heard today, and then that's the condition. And he has not been served these charges. So as a result of that, the case needs to be stored till next week Thursday. At that time, it is believed that he would have been served, and he will be in Abuja, where he will appear in court that next week. And another thing I would like to say is that this is a fresh charge compared to what we had in the previous. The last one was alongside his daughter and his son-in-law, but today is his brother, though they are similar charge of alleged contract fraud, but they are different. It's a fresh charge, which we must understand. Recall that the one of last week, which he appeared before FCT High Court in Maitama, he was granted a bail on that case. So if he had appeared in court today, it would have been on a fresh ground, which will also require him to plead guilty or not guilty. And then he will be required for him to either seek for the court to grant him bail, and which another condition of bail will be granted to him, and he will be made to meet those conditions of bail. So it is expected that since he was not in court today, that next week, as the judge has ruled, he will appear. At least he has more than a week to put himself together. The counsel to EFCC should set him the charges, and then he should be in Abuja, wherever he is within Nigeria. We are sure that he did not leave the four walls of Nigeria, because that was one of his conditions for bail. He must be within Nigeria, and hopefully next week, him and his brother will be before the judge to continue the fresh trial.
Thank you so much, Helen, for that update. Next week, Thursday, I'm sure you'll be in court again to follow these proceedings. TVC News reporter Helen Osamedekins, live for us in the nation's capital. I was staying in the nation's capital. The Commissioner of Police in the FCT says Abuja is no longer safe for criminals. Ben Igwe's warning is coming on the heels of an unrelenting approach to tackling crime in the nation's capital. Stephen Essien reports.
Securing lives and property in Abuja still presents a challenge to the police. A report by Beacon Security and Intelligence has shown that there were 20 security incidents in April, representing a 31.03% decrease from the previous month. Taxi cab armed robbery, locally called One Chance, remains a significant crime. Last week, a woman was found dead in Pape.
Good morning, everyone.
Reports indicate she was robbed and pushed out of a moving taxi. While investigation is ongoing to bring to book those behind the crime, the FCT Police Commissioner warns criminals of dire consequences.
The robbers and those who are thinking that you cannot be arrested, we are trying to determine. I want to tell you, FCT is not safe for you. As you have refused to hear, we have equally refused to rest. So as you move, we'll continue following you up.